My name is Logan Reynolds, and at 65 years old, I thought I knew my daughter Amanda better than anyone. That Tuesday evening, I was buttoning my dress shirt for our weekly family dinner when my phone buzzed. A text from Richard, my attorney of 30 years. "Call me immediately." My hands trembled as I dialed. What Richard told me about Amanda in the next 5 minutes shattered everything I believed about my only child. The floor seemed to disappear beneath me. Before I share what happened next, let me know where you are watching from in the comments. Hit that subscribe button if you have ever trusted someone who betrayed you. This story might help you feel less alone. I was born and raised in a blue-collar neighborhood in Detroit, Michigan. My father worked at the auto plant for 40 years, and my mother was a homemaker who raised 4 boys in a modest 3-bedroom house. I was the youngest, always trying to keep up with my older brothers. After high school, I got into construction, working my way up from carrying lumber to managing entire projects. By 25, I had moved to Pennsylvania for better opportunities and met Elizabeth at a friend's barbecue. Elizabeth had this laugh that could fill a room. When she smiled, her eyes crinkled at the corners in a way that made my heart skip. We married 11 months after meeting, bought a small starter home, and 3 years later, Amanda was born. The moment I held my daughter, this tiny human with Elizabeth's eyes and my stubborn chin, I promised to give her the world. Our life was simple but good. I worked hard, sometimes 60-hour weeks, while Elizabeth taught 2nd grade at the local elementary school. Amanda was a bright, curious child who loved books and always asked questions that made us think. She would sit at the kitchen table drawing elaborate pictures while Elizabeth graded papers. And on weekends, I would take her to the park where she would demand to go higher on the swings, fearless even then. When Amanda was 16, Elizabeth was diagnosed with aggressive breast cancer. Within 8 months, she was gone. Those days blur together in my memory, a fog of hospital rooms, whispered consultations with doctors, and trying to keep it together for Amanda. The night Elizabeth died, I found Amanda in our bedroom, curled up on her mother's side of the bed, clutching one of Elizabeth's sweaters. We held each other and cried until sunrise. Grief pulled us closer. Amanda and I figured out how to keep going without Elizabeth. We had dinner together every night, talking about school, her friends, and sometimes sharing memories of her mother. I never missed a parent-teacher conference or school concert. When she was accepted to Penn State, I drove 4 hours each way to help her move into her dorm. The house felt empty without her, but I was proud watching her become her own person. During college, Amanda met Michael. He seemed like a decent young man, ambitious with plans to go into finance. I was cautious at first, protective of my only child, but he made her happy. They married a year after graduation, with me walking Amanda down the aisle in the same church where Elizabeth and I had said our vows. Looking at Amanda in her wedding dress, I saw glimpses of her mother, and I knew Elizabeth would have been proud. Within 3 years, Jacob was born, followed by Emily 2 years later. Becoming a grandfather gave me new purpose. I retired from construction management at 60 and moved to be closer to them. We established a tradition of Sunday dinners at their house. I would bring dessert, usually an apple pie from the bakery near my apartment, and we would spend hours around their table, with the kids telling me about school and sports, while Amanda and Michael discussed their weeks. About 6 months before that fateful phone call, I started noticing subtle changes in Amanda. She seemed distracted during our conversations, checking her phone more often. Once, I arrived early and overheard her arguing with Michael about money, both of them going silent when they realized I was there. Another time, she asked detailed questions about my retirement accounts and investments, which I answered openly. I had nothing to hide from my daughter. Richard Green had been both my attorney and friend for over 30 years. He helped with Elizabeth's will, set up my retirement accounts, and drafted my own estate plans. Richard knew our family history, had attended Amanda's wedding, and even represented Michael once in a property dispute. We played golf occasionally, though neither of us had much talent for the game. The last time I had seen Richard was 3 months earlier, when I stopped by his office to update my will to include specific items for my grandchildren. He seemed normal then, maybe a bit curious when I mentioned Amanda had been helping me organize my finances. "That's good," he had said. Just make sure you review everything yourself. I had nodded, not thinking much of it. Why would I question my own daughter's intentions? The moment I heard Richard's voice on the phone, I knew something was seriously wrong. Gone was his usually jovial tone, replaced by something tense and controlled. "Logan, are you sitting down?" he asked. "You're scaring me, Rich." "What's going on?" He took a deep breath. "I discovered something while reviewing some property records for another client. Logan, there are documents showing transfers from your accounts to ones controlled by Amanda and Michael. Large transfers. My first instinct was to defend her. Well, I gave Amanda permission to help manage some investments. She has a business degree, you know." "Logan," Richard's voice grew firmer, "these aren't authorized transfers. Someone forged your signature on a power of attorney document dated 18 months ago. It gives Amanda complete control over all your finances. The notary stamp is from someone who lost their license 2 years ago." The room seemed to tilt. There must be some mistake. I wish there was. Papers shuffled on his end. "I've spent the last 48 hours investigating. They've systematically emptied your accounts, Logan. Your retirement fund has been reduced from $860,000 to just under $400,000. The rest has been transferred through various channels, most ending up in accounts under their names or shell companies they control." My throat went dry. How long? Based on the records I've obtained, it started small about 3 years ago, just after you added Amanda as a signatory on your checking account. Then it escalated dramatically after the fraudulent power of attorney was created. I sank onto my bed, the dinner jacket I'd been about to put on forgotten beside me. But we just had lunch last week. She was normal, loving. She was planning Jacob's birthday party. How could she? Richard's voice softened. "People compartmentalize, Logan. The evidence is undeniable. I have bank statements, transfer records, even video of Amanda at your bank accessing your safe deposit box last month, removing items." My mind raced back to the conversations about my finances, her sudden interest in my investments, the new car in their driveway, the kitchen renovation, the vacation to Hawaii they had taken without clear explanation of how they could afford it, the vacation home in the Poconos they bought last year. It was purchased with $400,000. Nearly $300,000 came from your accounts. The down payment for their new boat? That was $60,000 from your investment portfolio. Each revelation felt like a physical blow. I thought of all the times I had bragged about how well Michael and Amanda were doing, assuming their success came from hard work and Michael's finance job. "There's more," Richard continued. "Your grandchildren's college funds that you established, they've been emptied too. All $150,000. Gone." I couldn't speak. Those accounts were supposed to be untouchable until the kids reached 18. "Logan, are you still planning to go to dinner tonight?" Richard asked. I had completely forgotten about Sunday dinner. I don't know. How do I sit across from her knowing this? It might be better to postpone until we've secured what's left of your assets. If they suspect you know, they might accelerate taking whatever remains. My shock was transforming into something else. Betrayal. Anger. "No," I said finally. "I need to see her face. I need to understand if any of what we have is real." Richard sounded concerned. "If you go, don't confront them yet. We need to document everything first. File the proper reports. Just observe. Can you do that?" Could I sit across from my daughter, watching her serve dinner in the home partially paid for with my stolen money, and act normal? The thought made me physically ill. "What about the police?" I asked. "We'll need to file reports, but this is family fraud, Logan. It's complicated. Financial crimes like this take time to prosecute. I have a forensic accountant friend who can help us document everything properly. We meet with her tomorrow at 9. After I hung up, I sat motionless on my bed for 20 minutes. The photograph on my nightstand showed Amanda at her college graduation, her arm around my shoulder, both of us smiling. Had she been planning even then to steal from me? Or had something changed her? What desperate need could drive my daughter to betray me so completely? With mechanical movements, I finished dressing for dinner. Part of me wanted to call and cancel, claim illness. Another part needed to see if I could detect the deception now that I knew to look for it. Maybe I thought, with fading hope. Richard was somehow mistaken. Perhaps there was an explanation that would make sense of everything. I grabbed my keys, the weight of them in my hand feeling suddenly unfamiliar, as if everything in my life had transformed into something I no longer recognized. The 20-minute drive to Amanda and Michael's suburban home felt surreal. I had made this journey hundreds of times, usually looking forward to the chaos and warmth of family dinner. Now each familiar landmark seemed to mock me. I passed the park where I had pushed my grandchildren on the swings, the ice cream shop where we stopped after school sometimes, the corner where Amanda had learned to ride her bike 30 years ago. When I pulled into their driveway, I noticed their new SUV parked beside Michael's sports car. Had my retirement paid for these vehicles? I sat for a moment, gathering myself, rehearsing normal expressions and casual conversation in my mind. Before I could ring the doorbell, the front door flew open. 7-year-old Emily came running out, her blonde pigtails bouncing. "Grandpa, you're late. Mom said you might not come." I forced a smile and scooped her up, her small arms wrapping around my neck with complete trust. "Sorry, Pumpkin." Grandpa had a phone call that ran long. Jacob appeared in the doorway, 10 years old and already looking so much like his mother at that age it made my heart ache. "Did you bring pie?" he asked. Practical, as always. I realized I had forgotten our tradition. "Not today, buddy. I'll bring 2 next week to make up for it." Amanda appeared behind him, wiping her hands on a kitchen towel. Her smile seemed so genuine, her eyes crinkling at the corners just like Elizabeth's used to do. How could someone look so normal while carrying such a terrible secret? "Dad." We were getting worried. She gave me a quick hug, and I had to force myself not to stiffen. Did she feel the difference? Could she sense that everything had changed? Inside, the house was warm and filled with the smell of roasting chicken. Family photos lined the hallway, documenting years of birthdays, vacations, and ordinary moments. In one, I stood proudly next to Amanda at her college graduation. In another, taken just months ago, we posed together at Emily's school play. The memories these photos represented now felt tainted. Michael emerged from the kitchen with a glass of wine. "Logan, just in time. Hope you're hungry." I studied my son-in-law, looking for signs of guilt or discomfort. Was that unusual brightness in his eyes nervousness? The slightly too firm handshake, was that compensation for shame? "Starving," I lied, though the thought of food made me nauseous. Dinner was torture. Amanda served her mother's recipe for roast chicken with potatoes and green beans. It had always been my favorite meal, a connection to Elizabeth. Now, I wondered if this menu choice was manipulation, another way to keep me from suspecting anything was wrong. "So, Dad," Amanda said casually, passing the potatoes, "we were thinking about that lake vacation we talked about. Michael found a great rental for 2 weeks in July. The kids are so excited. It has a boat and everything, Grandpa," Jacob added enthusiastically. "And Mom said you could teach me to fish like you promised." Was this planned vacation to be funded with more of my stolen money? I pushed the potatoes around my plate, appetite gone. "That sounds great," I managed. Though July seems soon to be making plans. Michael cleared his throat. "Actually, we've already put down the deposit. $3,000 for 2 weeks, but worth it for the location. We thought it would be good for all of us to have something to look forward to." I nodded, watching Michael exchange a quick glance with Amanda. $3,000. A drop in the bucket compared to what they had already taken. Throughout dinner, I cataloged evidence I had been blind to before. The new dining chairs Amanda mentioned finding on sale. The expensive watch on Michael's wrist that he quickly covered when he noticed me looking. The casual mention of Jacob starting tennis lessons with that great pro at the country club. My grandchildren's innocent chatter about their activities and friends was the only genuine thing at the table. I focused on them, answering their questions and asking about school projects, while avoiding direct conversation with Amanda or Michael whenever possible. After dinner, while the kids cleared the table, Amanda touched my arm. "Dad, I have some paperwork I need you to sign. Just some updates to your medical directives. Richard said they needed refreshing, but you know how expensive his hourly rate is. I figured I could just handle it." The casual invocation of Richard's name made my stomach clench. What new theft was she planning? What would she have done if Richard hadn't discovered her scheme? Actually, I said, my voice sounding strange to my own ears. Richard just called me about those. I'll be seeing him tomorrow, so I can handle it then. Something flickered across Amanda's face. Concern? Fear? But it was gone instantly, replaced by her normal smile. Sure, that works too. Whatever's easier for you. I almost broke then. I wanted to grab her shoulders and demand answers. How could you do this to me? Why wasn't my love enough? What kind of example are you setting for your children? But Emily came bouncing back in, asking if we could play a board game, and the moment passed. Actually, sweetheart, I said to Emily, Grandpa isn't feeling too well tonight. I think I might need to head home early. Are you okay, Dad? Amanda's concern seemed so genuine it confused me further. You do look a little pale. Just tired, I lied. Probably coming down with something. Michael offered to pack me some leftovers, a gesture that once would have seemed thoughtful but now felt like another manipulation. I declined and made my goodbyes, hugging my grandchildren tightly, wondering how this would affect them when everything came to light. As I drove home in silence, no radio, no distractions, I tried to reconcile the daughter I thought I had with the person Richard's evidence revealed. The two images wouldn't merge. One of them had to be false, and deep down, I feared I knew which one was real. Richard's office was on the third floor of a converted Victorian house downtown. I had visited dozens of times over the years, usually for routine matters or friendly lunches. This morning, the familiar space felt different, smaller, less welcoming, or maybe I was the one who had changed. When I arrived, Richard was already seated with a woman he introduced as Diane Winters, the forensic accountant. She was all business, with a laptop, tablet, and stack of folders arranged precisely on the conference table. I'm sorry we're meeting under these circumstances, Mr. Reynolds, she said, shaking my hand firmly. I'll try to make this as clear and painless as possible, but I should warn you that what we're about to review will be difficult to hear. For the next 3 hours, they methodically laid out the evidence of Amanda and Michael's betrayal. Bank statements showed systematic withdrawals from my accounts, often just under $10,000 to avoid triggering automatic reporting requirements. Investment accounts had been gradually liquidated, with funds moved through several intermediary accounts before landing in ones controlled by Amanda and Michael. Diane pulled up a spreadsheet on her laptop, turning it so I could see. This timeline shows the progression. It started small, just $5,000 here, $3,000 there, amounts you might not notice missing from a large retirement fund. But once the fraudulent power of attorney was in place, the transfers accelerated. She scrolled down, showing larger and larger amounts. In the past 6 months alone, they've taken nearly $200,000. Richard placed a document in front of me. This is the power of attorney they used. Look at the signature. It resembled mine, close enough to fool someone who didn't know better, but noticeably different to my eyes. The date showed it had been created 18 months ago, during a week I remembered spending at Amanda's house while recovering from knee surgery. Had she practiced my signature while I was medicated and vulnerable? And here, Richard continued, placing another document beside it, is the real estate purchase agreement for their vacation property in the Poconos. Note the down payment amount and date. I matched it to a massive withdrawal from my retirement account on the same day. We've also discovered something concerning about Michael's employment situation, Diane said, pulling out another folder. He was let go from his financial firm nearly 2 years ago. From what we can piece together, there were suspicions of improper activity, though no formal charges were filed. This was stunning news. Michael still left for work in a suit every day. Amanda spoke about his job regularly, but their lifestyle, the house, cars, vacations, has been funded primarily with your money. Richard finished gently. They've been maintaining a facade. After leaving Richard's office, I went directly to First National Bank, where I'd been a customer for over 20 years. I asked to speak with the manager, Thomas, who knew me well, or so I thought. His discomfort was evident from the moment I sat down in his office. Logan, what can I do for you today? I need to understand how someone has been accessing my accounts without my knowledge. He shifted in his chair. Your daughter has had authorized access for some time. You added her as a signatory 3 years ago. For my checking account, yes. Not for everything else. Thomas couldn't meet my eyes. She presented a power of attorney document last year. It was properly notarized. We had no reason to question it. Did you call me to verify? Did anyone think it was strange that she suddenly had control over accounts that had been solely mine for decades? His silence was damning. What about my safe deposit box? She doesn't have a key. He looked even more uncomfortable. She came in with the power of attorney and requested access. We followed standard procedure. And what did she remove? After some hesitation, he pulled up records on his computer. According to our log, she accessed the box 4 times in the past year. Most recently, about 6 weeks ago. I knew what had been in that box. Elizabeth's jewelry, meant for Amanda on her 40th birthday. Family heirlooms. The original deed to my house. And my collection of rare coins that my grandfather had given me, worth at least $40,000. I want to see what's left, I demanded. The box was nearly empty. Elizabeth's jewelry was gone. The coins were gone. Even my birth certificate and social security card had been taken. Only a few old photographs and letters remained. That evening, I went through my home with new awareness, looking for other evidence of Amanda's betrayal. In my home office, I found a stack of financial documents I didn't remember receiving. Statement copies that appeared to have been delivered to my address but intercepted before I saw them. Several had Amanda's handwriting in the margins. In my bedroom closet, behind some old shoe boxes, I discovered a small digital voice recorder. When I pressed play, I heard conversations between Amanda and me from months ago, discussions about my investments and retirement plans. She had been recording me without my knowledge, perhaps to gather information or practice my speech patterns for phone authorizations. The final confirmation came when I called my sister Barbara in Arizona. We weren't close, speaking only a few times a year, but I remembered Amanda mentioning visiting her recently. Barbara, did Amanda ask you for money when she visited in March? The long pause told me everything, before she even spoke. How did you find out? How much? I asked, my voice hollow. $30,000, she admitted. She said you had medical issues you were keeping secret from everyone, that you needed surgery but your insurance wouldn't cover it. She was so upset, Logan. I never questioned it. I thanked her and hung up, wondering how many other relatives or friends Amanda had manipulated with lies about me. Later that night, alone in my kitchen with documents spread across the table, I found a bank statement showing regular payments to something called Lucky Horizon Enterprises. The name meant nothing to me, but an internet search revealed it was a shell company associated with an online gambling platform. All these revelations crashed together in my mind. Amanda's increasingly secretive behavior, Michael's hidden unemployment, the gambling connection, the methodical, calculated way they had stripped my accounts while maintaining the fiction of success and family happiness. I sat in the dark until sunrise, grieving not just the loss of my financial security, but the daughter I thought I had, the family I believed in. By morning, grief had hardened into resolve. It was time to confront Amanda with the truth. I called Amanda the next morning, careful to keep my voice normal. Could you stop by the house today? There are some things from your mother's that I want to give you. Sure, Dad. Is 3 o'clock okay? Michael has the kids after school. Perfect. I needed to speak with her alone. I spent the morning preparing. Richard had advised against confronting her before we had filed the proper legal reports, but I needed answers only Amanda could provide. I arranged the most damning evidence on my dining room table, each document telling part of the story of her betrayal. At precisely 3, her car pulled into my driveway. I watched through the window as she checked her makeup in the rearview mirror and grabbed her purse. Such an ordinary moment, from someone who had systematically stolen my life savings. Dad, she called, letting herself in with her key. Where are you? In the dining room, I answered, remaining seated. She appeared in the doorway, smiling. You sounded strange on the phone. Is everything okay? Are you feeling better than Sunday? I gestured to the chair across from me. Sit down, Amanda. Something in my tone made her pause. Her eyes darted to the papers on the table, then back to my face. Cautiously, she sat, placing her purse on the floor beside her. What's going on? I spoke with Richard on Sunday, I said, my voice steadier than I expected. Before dinner, her expression remained neutral, though I noticed her hands tighten slightly in her lap. Oh? What about? He discovered some concerning activity with my accounts. Large sums of money being transferred out. A fraudulent power of attorney document. My safe deposit box being emptied. For a moment, she maintained her composure, but as I continued to stare at her, cracks appeared. A slight tremor in her hand. A flush creeping up her neck. Dad, I don't know what Richard told you, but there must be some mistake. I've only been helping you organize things like you asked. I pushed the fake power of attorney document across the table. This is not my signature, Amanda. You forged this while I was recovering from knee surgery at your house. That's ridiculous. Her voice rose defensively. Why would I need to forge anything? You trust me with your finances. I trusted you with everything. I corrected quietly. And you betrayed that trust in every possible way. I methodically laid out each piece of evidence, one after another. The bank transfers, the withdrawn investments, the emptied college funds, the vacation property purchased with my retirement money, Michael's secret unemployment, the gambling payments. With each revelation, her denials became weaker, then transformed into deflections. Michael was the one who handled most of this, she claimed. I just signed what he told me to. The banker described you coming in alone, Amanda. The notary who lost his license was your friend from college. Your handwriting is on these documents, not Michael's. When deflection failed, she moved to justification. We were going to pay it all back. Michael has a big deal coming through next month. Michael hasn't worked in 2 years, I reminded her. Finally, when all defenses crumbled, tears came. Not the dignified tears of genuine remorse, but the messy, panicked crying of someone caught without escape. You don't understand the pressure we've been under, she sobbed. The lifestyle expectations, the kids' private school, the country club fees. And then I made one bad investment, tried to recover with another, and things spiraled. So you decided to steal from your father? From your children's college funds? She wiped at her eyes, leaving smudges of mascara. I got in over my head with the online gambling. It started as a way to try and make quick money when our savings were gone. Then I was trying to win back what I'd lost. They make it so easy, Dad. Just a few clicks and thousands on credit. I couldn't stop. And the recording device in my bedroom? Elizabeth's jewelry. Were those for gambling too? Her eyes widened slightly at the mention of the recorder. She hadn't known I'd found it. I needed to know what you knew, she admitted quietly. If you suspected anything. The jewelry. She looked down. I sold it. I told myself Mom would have wanted to help if she knew we were struggling. The invocation of Elizabeth's name ignited a flash of anger I had been suppressing. Your mother would be heartbroken to see what you've become. She raised you better than this. Amanda's tears stopped abruptly, replaced by calculation. Dad, please. We need to keep this between us. If this becomes public, if legal charges are filed, think about what it will do to Jacob and Emily. Their mother in legal trouble, their family name tarnished. Is that what you want for them? The manipulation was so transparent now that I knew to look for it. Using the grandchildren as shields, creating false choices where protecting them meant letting Amanda escape consequences. What example does it set for them if I let you steal their future without consequence? I asked. Their college funds are gone, Amanda. Money I worked decades to save, that you took in a matter of months. We can work this out privately, she pleaded. I'll get help for the gambling. Michael and I will pay you back over time. I shook my head. It's too late for that. Richard has already filed reports with the police and financial crimes unit. The forensic accountant has documented everything. Panic flashed across her face. You can withdraw those reports. Tell them it was a misunderstanding. No, Amanda. I can't do that. Her demeanor changed again, anger replacing desperation. After everything I've done for you since Mom died, I kept you in our lives. I gave you grandchildren. I included you in holidays and birthdays, when most people put their elderly parents in homes and forget about them. The cruel words hung in the air between us. Was this the real Amanda, or just another mask she wore when useful? I want you to leave now, I said quietly. Don't contact me except through Richard. Don't come to the house again. Dad, please, I'm sorry. I didn't mean that. She reached for my hand, but I pulled away. I have always loved you, Amanda. From the moment you were born, I would have given you anything you truly needed. All you had to do was ask. My voice cracked slightly. Instead, you chose to steal not just my money, but my trust. That's something I'm not sure I can ever get back. She stood shakily, grabbing her purse. At the doorway, she turned back. What about the kids? They love you. I love them too, more than you can imagine. We'll figure something out that protects them from the worst of this. But you need to leave now. After she left, I called Richard to let him know what had happened. He sighed but wasn't surprised. We'll move forward with the legal process. It won't be easy, Logan, but it's necessary. That night, I changed my locks and security code, feeling like a stranger in my own life. The confrontation had answered some questions but created new ones. How do you reconcile the child you raised with someone capable of such calculated betrayal? How do you protect grandchildren from the knowledge that their mother stole their future? These were questions with no easy answers, only painful choices ahead. The weeks following my confrontation with Amanda were a blur of legal meetings, financial investigations, and emotional turmoil. Richard guided me through filing formal charges of fraud, forgery, and financial exploitation. Detective Sarah Martinez from the Financial Crimes Unit spent hours interviewing me, examining documents, and building a case. Unfortunately, Mr. Reynolds, these types of cases are increasingly common, Detective Martinez explained during our third meeting. Elder financial abuse, especially by family members, is one of the fastest-growing crimes we see. But most victims never report it because of shame or family loyalty. I understood that reluctance all too well. Despite the clear evidence, part of me still struggled with the decision to pursue legal action against my own daughter. 2 days after I filed the police report, Michael called. His voice was a mixture of fury and panic. What the hell are you doing, Logan? The police came to our house yesterday. They had a warrant. Do you know how traumatizing this was for the kids? Where were the kids when you and Amanda were stealing their college funds? I asked quietly. This is all a misunderstanding that got out of hand, he insisted. Amanda made some mistakes, sure, but this is family business. You don't get the authorities involved in family matters. It became a legal matter the moment you forged documents and committed fraud, Michael. His tone changed, becoming threatening. If you go through with this, you'll never see Jacob and Emily again. Is that what you want? To destroy your relationship with your only grandchildren? The threat hit its mark, as he knew it would. The thought of losing my grandchildren was almost unbearable. But I held firm. That's emotional blackmail, Michael. It doesn't change what you and Amanda did. You'll regret this, he said before hanging up. The investigation moved faster than I expected. With the clear paper trail and Amanda's partial confession during our confrontation, the prosecutor felt they had a strong case. 6 weeks after my meeting with Richard, Amanda was arrested at home and charged with multiple felony counts. Her arrest made the local news, a brief mention that nonetheless sent shockwaves through our community. Friends called, expressing shock and offering support. Some family members rallied around me, while others questioned why I couldn't have handled things privately. My brother Thomas called from Florida, upset. Mom and Dad would be heartbroken to see the family name in the news like this. Couldn't you have worked something out? Would you be saying that if she stole $400,000 from you? I asked. His silence was answer enough. The hardest part was explaining the situation to Jacob and Emily. Michael initially prevented me from seeing them, but Richard helped arrange a supervised visit with a family counselor present. Walking into that sterile office, seeing their confused and frightened faces, was one of the most painful moments of my life. Why is Mom gone? Jacob asked immediately. Dad says you made the police take her away. Emily, quieter but equally distressed, simply asked, Are you mad at Mommy? With the counselor's guidance, I tried to explain in age-appropriate terms. Your mom made some serious mistakes that hurt a lot of people, including me. She took things that didn't belong to her. Like stealing? Jacob asked. Yes, I admitted. Like stealing. But stealing is wrong, Emily said. Her brow furrowed. Mommy says stealing is wrong. Sometimes good people make very bad choices, the counselor interjected gently. But that doesn't mean they stop loving you, or that you need to stop loving them. Over the following weeks, these supervised visits became regular, a lifeline to the grandchildren I adored. Michael attended the first few, watching me with barely concealed hostility. But eventually he stopped coming, sending his sister instead. 3 months after her arrest, Amanda appeared in court for her plea hearing. I sat in the back row, watching my daughter in her conservative blue suit, looking so much smaller than I remembered. She had lost weight, and her usually perfect hair was pulled back simply. On her lawyer's advice, she pleaded guilty to reduced charges in exchange for a shorter sentence. As part of the plea deal, she admitted to the court what she had done, her voice occasionally breaking as she detailed the systematic theft from my accounts and the forged documents. Judge Harriet Wilson, a stern woman in her 60s, did not hide her disgust. Mrs. Peterson, the court sees many financial crimes, but few as troubling as yours. You exploited the trust of a parent who gave you every advantage in life. You stole not just from your father but from your own children's future. The betrayal of family trust compounds the severity of your financial crimes. The sentence came down. 6 months in county jail, followed by 5 years of probation, mandatory gambling addiction treatment, and a restitution order for the full amount stolen, plus interest. As Amanda was led away, she looked back at me just once, her expression unreadable. Was it remorse? Anger? A silent plea for forgiveness? I couldn't tell, and in that moment, I realized how completely I had lost the ability to read my own daughter. 2 weeks after Amanda began serving her sentence, Michael filed for divorce. His lawyer contacted mine with a proposal. In exchange for my testimony that Michael had no knowledge of Amanda's financial crimes, he would grant me regular visitation rights with the children. It's a self-serving offer, Richard advised. He's trying to protect himself from potential charges or civil liability. Do you think he really didn't know? I asked. Richard gave me a pointed look. The vacation home is in both their names. The boat is registered to him. He suddenly had access to hundreds of thousands of dollars while unemployed and never questioned where it came from. Draw your own conclusions, Logan. I declined the deal, though the prosecutor ultimately decided not to charge Michael due to insufficient evidence of his direct involvement. The divorce proceeded, with Amanda in jail and Michael struggling financially now that the stolen money had stopped flowing. The children's stability was in jeopardy. Through my attorney, I petitioned for temporary custody of Jacob and Emily. The family court judge, concerned about the children's well-being, granted my request for the duration of Amanda's incarceration, with Michael having weekend visitation rights. The day the children moved into my home was bittersweet. I had converted my home office into a bedroom for Jacob and the guest room for Emily, trying to make the spaces welcoming with new bedding in their favorite colors and a few toys and books. Is this forever, Grandpa? Emily asked that first night, her voice small as I tucked her in. No, sweetheart. Just until your mom comes home, and then will everything be normal again? I wished I could promise her that, but I had already broken my lifelong rule of never lying to my grandchildren. Things will be different, but we'll figure it out together. The important thing is that you and Jacob are loved very much. The first time I took the children to visit Amanda in jail was another test of strength. The visiting room was stark, with bolted-down tables and chairs. Amanda, in her standard-issue uniform, looked simultaneously grateful and ashamed to see her children. Emily ran to her mother immediately, while Jacob held back, uncertain. Amanda hugged her daughter tightly, tears streaming down her face. "I've missed you so much," she whispered. When the initial emotion settled, Amanda looked at me across the table. "Thank you for bringing them," she said quietly. "Michael hasn't visited once." The conversation was awkward, with Amanda trying to maintain a positive facade for the children's benefit. She asked about school, their friends, their new rooms at my house, but the setting made normalcy impossible, with guards watching and other inmates at nearby tables. As our allotted time ended, Amanda pulled me aside briefly. "Dad, I know you have every reason to hate me." "I don't hate you, Amanda," I interrupted, surprised to find it was true. "I hate what you did. I'm heartbroken and disappointed, but you're still my daughter." Her eyes filled with tears again. "I don't deserve your forgiveness." "No," I agreed. "You don't. Not yet. But these visits aren't about you. They're about Jacob and Emily. Some family members criticized me for pursuing charges against Amanda. My cousin Susan called one evening, her voice sharp with judgment. "Family protects family, Logan. Elizabeth would be appalled at how you've handled this. Elizabeth would be appalled that our daughter stole from her own father and children," I countered. "Don't use my late wife's name to manipulate me, Susan. It won't work." The months of Amanda's incarceration were challenging but also healing in unexpected ways. Jacob and Emily gradually adjusted to living with me. We established routines, from homework at the kitchen table to Sunday morning pancakes. I attended school conferences and soccer games, trying to provide stability amid the chaos of their young lives. Meanwhile, I worked with financial advisors to salvage what remained of my retirement and rebuild the children's college funds. Friends and extended family who supported my difficult decisions helped in various ways, from offering emotional support to practical assistance with childcare and household management. Throughout this period, I maintained firm boundaries. When Michael missed child support payments, I documented everything for the court rather than confronting him directly. When Amanda wrote letters asking for money in her commissary account, I sent only modest amounts with clear limitations. For the first time in my adult life, I put my own needs first, recognizing that I couldn't help anyone if I didn't protect myself. It was a painful lesson at 65, but one that would serve me and my grandchildren better in the long run than the unquestioning trust that had characterized my relationship with Amanda before. 2 years after that fateful phone call from Richard, much had changed. Amanda had been released after serving her 6-month sentence, followed by a mandatory stay in a residential treatment program for gambling addiction. She now lived in a modest apartment across town, working as an administrative assistant and attending weekly counseling and Gamblers Anonymous meetings. The restitution order remained in effect, with garnishment of her wages providing a small but symbolic repayment of what she had taken. At the current rate, it would take decades to repay the full amount, but the court's acknowledgement of the debt mattered more than complete financial recovery. Michael had moved to Cincinnati for a fresh start, seeing the children monthly during weekend visits. His relationship with Jacob and Emily remained strained, particularly with Jacob, who at 12 was old enough to understand more of what had happened and asked increasingly difficult questions. The children had returned to living with Amanda 6 months after her release, once the court was satisfied with her stability and treatment progress. I had mixed feelings about this transition, relief that they could rebuild their relationship with their mother, but concern about their emotional well-being and financial security. My relationship with Amanda evolved slowly. Initially, our interactions were limited to logistics regarding the children, conducted with formal politeness. Gradually, as she demonstrated consistent commitment to her recovery, I allowed myself to hope for genuine change. "I know I can never undo what I did," Amanda said during one of our cautious conversations, "but I want to be worthy of being your daughter again someday. That will take time," I told her honestly. "Trust, once broken, doesn't repair easily." "I understand," she replied. "I'm prepared for the long road." To protect myself, I established clear boundaries. Amanda would never again have access to any of my financial information or accounts. Richard helped me create ironclad legal protections, including a revocable trust with professional oversight for my estate. My new will included specific provisions for my grandchildren's education, structured to prevent misuse. I sold my house and moved to a smaller condo closer to Jacob and Emily's school, both to simplify my life and to free up capital to rebuild my savings. At 67, I took a part-time consulting position with my former construction company, providing both mental stimulation and supplemental income. The experience changed my perspective on trust and family in fundamental ways. I learned that love, while essential, is not a substitute for appropriate boundaries. That family ties, while precious, do not justify tolerating exploitation or abuse. That accountability, while painful, is sometimes the greatest form of love we can offer someone who has lost their way. One unexpected outcome was my involvement with a support group for victims of financial exploitation. Initially, I went seeking comfort from others who understood my experience. Eventually, I became a volunteer speaker, sharing my story to help others recognize warning signs and take protective action. The hardest part, I often told these groups, isn't the financial loss, though that's devastating. It's the loss of the relationship you thought you had, the story you believed about your family. At one of these meetings, I met Harriet, a retired teacher whose son had emptied her accounts to fund a failed business. Our shared experience created an immediate bond, which gradually blossomed into friendship and eventually a gentle romance. Having someone who truly understood my journey without judgment was healing in ways I hadn't anticipated. Amanda's recovery journey had ups and downs. 3 times during the first year after release, she called her sponsor during moments of overwhelming gambling urges. Once, she slipped and placed online bets, but reported it herself at her next GA meeting, recommitting to her recovery. These actions, while challenging, showed a commitment to honesty that gave me cautious hope. My grandchildren showed remarkable resilience. Emily, now 9, processed her feelings through art, creating poignant drawings of her family in various configurations. Jacob, more verbal about his emotions, sometimes expressed anger about what had happened, but also asked thoughtful questions about forgiveness and redemption. Is it okay to still love Mom even though she did bad things? He asked me once while we were fishing at the local pond. Absolutely, I assured him. Loving someone doesn't mean you approve of everything they do. It means you see their whole self, the good and the bad, and care about them anyway. 18 months after Amanda's release, we attempted our first family dinner, just the 4 of us, at a neutral restaurant rather than either of our homes. The conversation was sometimes stilted, with careful avoidance of certain topics, but seeing Amanda interact with her children without the constraints of supervised visitation was a step forward. As we were leaving, Amanda asked for a moment alone with me. "Thank you," she said simply, "for not giving up on the possibility of some kind of family relationship, for giving the kids stability when I couldn't, for being willing to sit at the same table with me after everything." "We're finding a new way forward," I replied. "It's different from what I imagined, but maybe that's okay." The hardest lesson I learned through this ordeal was about the complex nature of love, that sometimes the most loving action feels the least loving in the moment, that holding someone accountable can be an act of profound care, even when it causes pain, that forgiveness doesn't require forgetting or placing yourself at risk for further harm. I still keep Elizabeth's photo on my nightstand. Some nights, I find myself talking to her, sharing the journey of the past years, imagining her wisdom and perspective. "You would have been stronger than me from the beginning," I tell her. "You always saw people more clearly than I did." But I've come to believe that Elizabeth would approve of the boundaries I've established, the resilience I've modeled for our grandchildren, and the careful, intentional rebuilding of family connections on more honest terms. 2 years after that devastating phone call, I found a measure of peace, not the unquestioning trust I once had, but something perhaps more valuable: the knowledge that I can survive betrayal, protect myself without closing my heart completely, and find joy even after profound loss. I still have the phone on which Richard texted me that fateful evening. Sometimes I look at that message, "Call me immediately," and marvel at how life can change in an instant, how the stories we tell ourselves about our loved ones can be suddenly rewritten, how recovery from betrayal isn't a straight line but a winding path with unexpected turns and viewpoints. If you're watching this and have experienced betrayal by someone you trusted completely, know that healing is possible. Not quick or easy, but possible. The pain dulls eventually. New relationships with clearer boundaries can form. Life continues, different but still meaningful. Have you ever discovered a painful truth about someone you loved? How did you handle it? Share your experience in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, please subscribe to my channel and give this video a thumbs up. Every week, I share real-life stories about navigating family challenges and finding strength in difficult circumstances. Thank you for listening to my journey.